Rusty Saloon is a new gambling website with games such as Roulette, Crash, and many more. You can redeem a free 3 cents every 15 minutes you're on the site, and if you enter my code Tomorrow77, you can get a free 50 cents when you sign up. Once you're done, you can go to withdraw and get any skin that you want. The site's for 18 and over, please gamble responsibly, and thank you to Rusty Saloon for sponsoring this video. Hello and welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be a complete farming guide. I recommend that you farm berries in order to make tea, however you can also use this farm to farm cloth or food. In this video I'll be giving you an efficient yet modular design, and I'll be guiding you from a rock and torch all the way to having your own fully functional farm. And in case you're wondering, I have made 2 videos similar to this, however as time goes on, the meta shifts, the game changes, and hence here we are with the 3rd video. I listened to all the feedback that you've given me on the other 2 videos, and so that's why this video is going to be a little bit different with a bit more focus on how to actually set up the farm rather than just showing you the build. However, if you are just here for the build, then timestamps will be in the description. Farming is extremely meta if you're a large group who can get their farm base up relatively quickly, or if you're a smaller group or solo and you play the server for more than a couple of days. The reason is because it takes time to crossbreed and get the farm fully functional, and you won't reap the rewards until it is so. Once the farm is up and running, you can either have access to an abundant source of cloth, food, or you can increase the gather rates of your resources, or even farm health teas, which give you an insane advantage by having an extra 20% health, or you can get health regen teas, which essentially replace medkits. And if you're relatively efficient and enjoy setting up farms like these, you can even sell your excess teas, cloth, or food to other groups on the server, especially since with the new vending machine update, you can now purchase things via drones. So now more than any time ever is a great time to set up a farm and reap the rewards. Okay, so now that you've decided you want to build a farm, my first piece of advice is to be prepared. Plan out how you're going to build it, plan out how you're going to crossbreed, and all those other things on build servers before you get into the wipe. Ideally, you'd play a wipe on this server before and collect some of the basic BPs. You can build this farm on a BP wipe, however it's a lot easier if you already have some of the essentials. However, if you don't, that's fine. You can get a lot of the things from tech trees, and you can get pretty much everything from bandit camp and outpost. You only need to build near one of these monuments, as you can use the drones to buy things from the other. The essential BPs include a large planter box and lights. You're going to need some sort of battery. A small one's fine for when you first set up your lights, however you're going to need a medium one if you want to automate things. Switch to a large one if you can afford it, or if you have a large scale farm and this will just make things easier. You're going to need a source of electricity. Normally this will come from solar panels, however if you can afford a wind turbine, I highly recommend you swap to one. This is just because wind turbines are a lot more consistent and generate a lot more power. You'll want to get your hands on a water jug, preferably more than one. A substitute until you get your first water jug is a Boda bag or a bucket, but I highly recommend that you just try and get that water jug. If you want to automate your system, you're going to need sprinklers, pumps, and E-branches, and if you plan on using multiple solar panels, you'll need root combiners. If you live out in the snow, you'll want to get some heaters, and although I don't recommend building with salt water, if you do live on the coast, you'll want to get a water purifier. Okay, so now that you know what you need, here's how to actually progress and set everything up. You want to start your wipe just as any other wipe, setting up a starter base so that you can work out of that whilst you're collecting your resources. Keep in mind that you need to base on a water source. It'll make everything else so much easier. Water catchers don't really do anything, so a lot of people ask, can I use a water catcher for this base? No, you definitely want to be using pumps. Ideally, you'll build on a river or a lake that's not connected to the ocean. This way you get access to fresh water via pumps. You can build on salt water, and I'll show you how to do that, but I don't recommend it because setting up the farm early game is really difficult because you need to get a purifier to actually get things going. Building in the snow is fine if you have the heater blueprint, or you can buy it from Outpost. Just keep in mind that it will be a little bit difficult as you won't have a heater set up straight away. Whilst you're farming for other things, it's important to start collecting seeds now. You can only get hemp seeds from naturally spawning bushes, and it's important to get at least 50 seeds if you plan on crossbreeding. You can find berries and potatoes in this red foresty area like this one, and to locate them on the map it's quite simple. Look for the dark area as illustrated by my mouse here. You can eat all the berries you get straight away, as this will instantly give you a seed. Potatoes you can eat as you get hungry, but you're going to want to eventually eat them all as you need as many seeds as possible. Green berries are essentially useless, so you can throw them away and collect all other types of berries. Continue to play the wipeout normally, farming the road, monuments, and any nodes that you can find. You're going to want a lot of resources before you start to lay down your base. Although in not too much time, you should have enough stone to lay down your foundations. Keep in mind that the water pump can only be placed at a specific height. It's somewhere in between 40 centimeters to a meter deep in water. So before I lay down my foundations, I find an area where I can fit 4 pumps in a square foundation, place that square foundation, and then build the base according to that. Of course, you might not have a pump right now, but if you practice on a build server, you should know roughly how tall the water needs to be. Out from this pump spot, you'll place 3 triangles and then 1 more square next to it. This is going to be your loot room. Then place 1 more triangle as I've done here, and this will be your TC spot. Out from these 2 triangles, you can place your first 2x3. Each farm block is 1 2x3 for future reference. The wall frame at the end of the 2x3 will be your front door, and 1 more wall frame to the side. This will allow you to continue to expand and have multiple 2x3s. Wrap back around to where I said the TC would be, and it should look something like this. You can start upgrading things to stone and place your TC in this triangle. Make sure to lock your tool cupboard, and if you can, place a glass window and a wall frame to secure it. If you don't have this BP yet, you can of course use a door, it'll just be a little bit cheaper to raid. Upgrade everything to stone except for the foundation which we dedicated to be the pumps. Keep in mind that you can't really place the 4 pumps in the square foundation like an oil refinery, so you'll want to place the 4 pumps first. If you don't have the pumps yet, that's fine, just make sure not to upgrade anything surrounding this square. Add 1 more frame leading towards the pumps, and then add a roof, and if you wanted to now, you could add double doors to secure this 2x3. Attach this double door over here is where you're going to add your extra 2x3s. Now you can have as many blocks of 2x3s as you want, it just depends on your group size and how much you're willing to farm. If you add a door frame here, you'll be able to continue the blocks of 2x3s as far as you want, however for this build I'm only going to be doing 4 blocks, so I'll wall it off. Now you should have 2 farming blocks, or in other words a 3x4. If you built your farm base in the snow, you want to place a half wall and then a low wall in the middle of each farm block. These can be anything you'd like, just make sure they don't decay. As for the front of the base, I usually add a bunch of triangles and a ladder hatch to get to the 2nd floor. I also add a loot room here. Now this is all completely optional, you can design the front however you'd like, this is just the way that I would do it. Of course, if you only want 1 story, you don't need this ladder hatch. However, for most people that want a large base, it's going to be easier to build up than it is to be building out. The front airlock is completely optional. I just do it this way because once we upgrade everything to sheet metal, this will ensure that the cheapest path into the middle is still going to be 8 rockets. Now you don't need to do the 2nd story straight away, you can in fact door off this area and just start working on the ground floor, but for the sake of this video I'm going to be doing 4 farming blocks, which means that I'm going to need another story, and I might as well just fill that in now. It's an exact replica of the bottom story, so nothing new here. Something that I would recommend doing before you set up your 2nd floor is dooring off the first farming block with some double doors, and then you can start placing your planter boxes. Of course, all of these double doors will be turned into garage doors later, so don't place down too many. I made a mistake here, and this triangle should actually not be here, as you want a little water pocket so that you can get water from the ground without having to leave your base. In order to duplicate seeds early on, you'll want to set up your electricity straight away. All you really need is a solar panel, battery, and some lights, and you'll be able to start duplicating your seeds because you can just manually water your plants. What I would recommend doing is putting down 1 solar panel, 1 battery. This can be small if you're only using a couple of lights, and then the system's really easy. You just plug the solar panel into the battery and the battery into the lights. A small battery can charge 5 lights and a medium one can charge 25. Solar panels should be placed north or south depending on your location on the map. For more information, go into the description and I have a video detailing how to place them correctly. Once you've got your lights set up, you want to start manually watering your planter boxes. Using a jug makes this process a hell of a lot easier, and if you have multiple jugs, it's even quicker. All you have to do is go to your water pocket, hold down right click and fill up the jug. Once it gets to 5 liters, you can jump back into the center and the water will evenly divide between the planter boxes that you throw it on. So for example, here I'm throwing it onto 4 planter boxes, so it'll evenly divide between 4, and then once those have reached 9,000 mils, I can go splash some water onto the back 2. I would get them to 9 litres so that they last longer, but once they're at 4.5 litres, they have 100% water anyway. Once you've watered them and your lighting's set up, you want to start placing your seeds in the 4 corners. The reason we do this is because if seeds are touching, and that includes diagonally, it means that they'll start to crossbreed and they'll probably transfer over their bad genetics. So in order to duplicate our seeds, it's more efficient if we place them in the corners like so. Keep in mind that berries will not crossbreed with one another if they're a different colour. Therefore, once we place our yellow ones in the corner, we can actually place red ones like so. This is because there's still a nice gap in between the red seeds, and then in the final 2 seeds we could place white seeds, and then right in the center we could place blue. This is what the layout looks like. Notice how none of the same colors are touching each other, and you can interchange this with anything that you want. At this stage you can get back to playing the game and come back in a few hours, and when your berries or whatever you're planting reaches ripe stage, that's right, ripe at 0 or any % for that matter, you can harvest it, and if it's berries, you want to eat the berries. Same goes for potatoes. When you eat your berries or food, you'll get back more seeds than you used to plant. This is essentially increasing the amount of seeds that you have at your disposal. And then once you gather at least 50 seeds, you're going to want to start crossbreeding. Now there's no way I can fit that into this video as it's a separate topic in itself. I have multiple videos and I'll link them down in the description below to teach you how to crossbreed. You can't actually duplicate your seeds for hemp unfortunately, so you're going to have to manually collect all of the seeds. But after you've duplicated all of your seeds and you have around 50 to 100, depending on how good of a crossbreeder you are, you should be able to convert that seed into a triple G, triple Y. You can go for a 2G, 4Y if you want, as it's slightly less labor, but it's slightly less efficient. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, that's fine. If you look closely at a plant, it has genetics in the top. Obviously green is good and red is bad. In case you don't know what each one does, W means that it requires more water, X does nothing, H is hardiness, meaning that it'll grow better in cold climates. However, we have heaters, so we don't want H genes. G makes it grow faster, and Y gives more yield. Also, for every 2 Y genes you have, you get an extra clone every time you clone that plant. As for the other stats, the health will continue to increase to 100 as long as the plant is growing, the age is just a timer, and the stage is what current stage the plant is in its life cycle. There's 6 stages going from seedling, sapling, crossbreeding, mature, fruiting, ripe, until dying. The only thing you need to worry about is that if you want to clone your plant, clone it as soon as possible, which is in sapling stage. It'll crossbreed as soon as it hits crossbreeding stage, and you don't want to touch it in mature or fruiting. However, once it hits ripe, you can harvest it and you'll get the most amount of berries or whatever it is you're harvesting. As for the conditions, light should always be at 100% if you've got lights. I wouldn't recommend using the sun as your light source as it's not as consistent. As for water, this will range anywhere from 67% up to 100% for hemp. However, for things such as berries and potatoes, it should stay at 75% to 100%. Ground will be at 67% for hemp and 75% for other plants. The only way to increase this is to use fertilizer, but I don't recommend using fertilizer at all because it's not worth the time and trouble that it takes to get it. If you do have excess fertilizer, you can just sell it straight to Bandit Camp. As for the temperature, this should always be at 100% if you use a heater. However, if you don't have a heater, then it'll probably hover somewhere around 90% unless you're in the snow. Finally, we have the overall condition, which is determined by the limiting factor. This means that the lowest condition out of the above 4 will determine what the overall is. For example, in this situation, the ground is 75%. That means that overall, this is going to be growing at 75% efficiency. So for example, if our temperature was to drop from 100 to 90%, or our water was to drop from 87 to 80%, nothing would change. The only thing that matters is the overall condition, and as long as this is at 67% for hemp or 75% for other plants, then you're happy. Whilst you're waiting for plants to grow, you want to continue to farm and set up your planter boxes in the other areas so that you can go ahead and set up the automatic system. You're going to need 1 pump per 2 sets of 2x3s. For this design, we've got 4 blocks of 2x3s, so that means we're going to need 2 pumps. However, I will show you how to get 4 pumps into 1 foundation. This way you can expand it to 8 blocks and only need to have 1 pocket of water. Destroy the foundation we designated for the pumps and place them in this configuration. Make sure that the outer foundations are not placed yet, as you won't be able to place all 4 in a square if you do so. Once they're all placed, you can start placing foundations, and similar to an oil refinery, you just want to place the foundations from the outside and then wall it off. You can upgrade these foundations to metal to ensure that people can't backwards pick into your pump room. If you want to set up your automatic watering, you're definitely going to need at least a medium battery, preferably a large one. However, you can get away with a medium one for most size bases. To figure out how much electricity you're going to need stored, for a standard 4x3 you're going to need 6 electricity for the pump. It's actually only 5 for the pump, but 1 gets lost in the E branch. Then each ceiling light is 2 power, so that's 8 for a 4x3, and if you are using heaters it's 3 power per heater, so that's 6 for a 4x3. So that brings us to 7 power per block of 2x3, or 10 if you're using heaters. So for this base design I have 4 blocks of 2x3s, so without the heaters I could easily run this with a medium battery as it only requires 28 power total. However, if I was to use heaters it would only require 40 power, so again a medium battery is fine. So therefore anything larger I would definitely need a large battery if I wanted it all on the same circuit. If you can get your hands on a wind turbine, then I highly recommend you add one to your circuit. This is because they generate up to 150 power and they're extremely consistent as opposed to solar panels. Solar panels go out at nighttime, and also they can be really annoying when you build next to trees, mountains, valleys, or other things that block out the light. One wind turbine placed high enough into the sky is definitely more than enough to power a farm base of this size. If the output is above 100, then obviously you could run something double this size. If you're going to use solar power, however, you're going to need multiple solar panels. I can't tell you exactly how many solar panels you need per 2x3 because unfortunately solar panels are really inconsistent. For example, I'm built here in a valley, which means I'm actually getting blocked out by the sun for quite a lot of the day. Unfortunately, this means that I will need to chain multiple solar panels in order to power my medium battery. So if you're at home and you're setting this up and you don't know how many solar panels is enough, I would recommend adding 2 to 3 with root combiners, and then at any time during the night, if your battery goes to 0 power, that means that you don't have enough solar panels. It's really easy to add another solar panel to your circuit. All you do is just grab another root combiner and add it in a chain series. For those who really struggle with electricity, I'll show you one more time on Rustrition. So we have 2 solar panels, both the power output goes into the root combiner, and root combiner 1 output goes into a battery. If we want another one, we just add another solar panel, which power out goes into root combiner 2, root combiner 1 goes into root combiner 2, and root combiner 2's final output power goes into the battery. If we repeat this step, we're going to have to delete the output of root combiner 2 and instead put it into root combiner 3. The full solar panel goes into root combiner 3, and ta-da, the final output goes into the battery. And when you set up the lights, here is the final circuit. So as you can see, we've got our power source going into the battery, and then the battery goes into 2 different E branches. Each E branch needs to branch out 5 power into the pumps. Then the final E branch will connect to the lights and heaters. Of course, if you're not in the snow and you don't need heaters, then you just connect all the lights together in a big long chain. Okay, so here's me doing the electricity in game. You just take the power out from the source into the battery. Then we're going to need 2 E branches, 1 branch per pump, and it's 1 branch per 2 farming blocks. So we have 4 farming blocks, so we're going to need 2 pumps. Make sure to set the E branch of both of the branches to 5, and then the branch out, which is 5 power, is going to go into the pump. Make sure to do this for both of them, and make sure that it's in branch out. Then the power out of the second E branch is going to go into the first light. Lights connect in series, so power into the first light and then pass through into all of the other ones. Of course, if you're using heaters, then you're going to want to connect them up as well, and it's just one nice long chain. The sprinklers and heater placement isn't too strict, just place it somewhere in the middle and the heater can only go on the wood wall. Of course you don't need this wood wall if you're not using heaters. Next up we have to connect the water, which is really simple. You just get your hose tool and it's 1 pump per 4 sprinklers. So you take the water out from the first pump and put it into the closest sprinkler, and exactly like lights they have a pass through and you can connect 4 sprinklers. Make sure not to connect any more, otherwise you will run into issues where you're not getting enough water. Do keep in mind that water can only flow horizontally or downhill unless it's coming out of a pump source. So if your farm is just a 2x3 but it's vertical, let's say you have 2 sprinklers on the first floor and 2 sprinklers on the second floor, you'd want to have the pump going directly to the second floor, and then after the pass through of those 2 sprinklers, work your way downwards. Of course, you can also use a fluid switch pump to move water upstairs, however this is much easier. See how I've done it here with one pump pumping water into the second floor, and then once the water gets up to the first sprinkler on the second floor, I can just have pass through to the other 3. And now that your system's automated, all you have to do is mass produce clones. So once you get the perfect clone from crossbreeding, you want to plant it and then clone it as soon as possible. Once you clone it, you can reproduce multiple copies of it, and then once you do that, you want to start cycling through cloning cycles as well as harvesting cycles. Because with triple G, triple Y, you get 3 times the amount of clones, you want to get a full planter box full, clone them once, and then clone every 3rd cycle. So for example, with this setup, you'd get 216 clones, clone them all once, and then you'd get 648 clones. Then you would do 2 harvesting cycles. Each time you'd use 216 clones to fill up all of the planter boxes. Then you'd harvest the cloth, berries, food, or whatever it is you planted. Do that twice. Then on the 3rd round, you'd plant your 216 clones. These would be your last 216 clones, and clone them one more time, bringing your total back up to 648. Then you can do the whole process again. The reason this is better than cloning and planting at the same time is because cloning versus harvesting is a huge time difference. Cloning only takes around 10 minutes, so you can do it really quickly, but then when you harvest, it takes up to 2 hours, so you can go off and do other things. I don't recommend using salt water for many reasons. The main reason is because you don't have access to manually watering your planter boxes at the start of wipe. This means that you can't start to duplicate your seeds as soon as you set up your lights. Usually in my experience, this delays the duplication process by a couple of hours. On top of that, usually manually watering your stuff early first is good anyway, because sprinklers are only used to maintain water, not to add water whilst the plants are already in them. Therefore, if you're going to build on the coast and use salt water, I would highly recommend that you're either in a large group and you can get this all set up super early, or you're playing the server for a very, very long time. Salt to freshwater conversion loses roughly 50% of the water, meaning you're going to need 1 pump per 2x3 instead of 1 per 2. Also, the water purifier is going to need 5 power, meaning you're going to need to add an additional E-branch to your setup and then just branch out 5 power towards it, similar to the pumps. You're going to want to connect 3 pumps into 1 fluid combiner so that it can all be passed through to a water purifier. You can actually convert more water with 1 purifier, however the output of water is capped at 6 sprinklers anyway, so the easiest and most simple solution is to just have 1 purifier per 3 pumps, which means that to effectively utilize this design, you're going to want to make sure that however many 2x3 blocks you have, it's a multiple of 3. The output of the water purifier can go into a sprinkler. In this design, I choose to put it onto the top floor. This is because remember how I said that water can't travel uphill unless it's coming out of a powered source? Well, if we pass the water up to the top floor, then we can have it trickle down to 6 sprinklers all the way down to the bottom floor. I already connected it, but it's exactly the same as before, except instead of 4 sprinklers, we now have 6. And that is everything you need to know about using and maintaining our farm. Next, I'm going to go over a few tips in order to maximize your profit, as well as answering some frequently asked questions. Please make sure that you practice your crossbreeding on a private server. Builder Sanctuary is a great server because it has commands that allow you to speed up growth times, or if you go on a private server, there's a few commands that I've got in my Discord which will allow you to speed it up as well. Trying to teach yourself crossbreeding on a vanilla server is almost identical to going into an exam before you've watched any of the lectures, so make sure to go check out my other videos and practice first. The whole point about farming in Rust is that it takes a long time to set up, but once you do have it set up, you have an easy access stream to so many different resources that other players would take a long time to gather. For example, with cloth, what you might get in a few minutes could take someone hours of hitting the road. So in order to actually profit from your excess materials, you want to make sure that you're selling it. It's really easy to sell to other players with the new drone update, so make sure to set up a vending machine. Also with cloth, you can directly sell it to Bandit Camp in order to exchange it for scrap. However, do keep in mind that on most vanilla servers, you will have a sale cap. That means that you can only sell the cloth every 5 minutes and you have to wait for the Bandit Camp to restock. There are, however, many modded servers which have the sale cap removed, including a few of them which are vanilla. So I would go DM some admins of modded servers and go check to see if they've got the sale cap removed if you plan on selling a lot of cloth. Or if you're on a vanilla server, then I would highly recommend just berry farming, and then you can sell your excess teas to some of the clans. Max health teas and extra resource gathering teas are invaluable to a lot of clan members, so I would highly recommend doing that. Just make sure not to make yourself a target and use externals TCs so you don't get raided by them. Bases like these are not sturdy. Make sure that you have a main base connected to this base or off to the side so that you can store everything when you log off. Never leave any plants out when you log off, otherwise if raiders profit from one raid, they're definitely bound to come back. Make sure to use external TCs, because if they get TC access and you don't have them, they'll easily be able to seal off all of your stuff, and even if they can't pick it up, all the planter boxes lost is a huge waste. Unless you're in a large group, building the full size base is definitely going to take you quite a bit of time, so doing things like setting up the lights early so that you can start duplicating your seeds means by the time the base is fully set up, you'll have enough seeds to start crossbreeding. And any excess scrap you have lying around should definitely be spent at outposts or bandit camp in order to buy large planter boxes, solar panels, batteries, lights, or whatever you lack the resources to craft. These tips are for people who are a little bit more advanced and have been breeding for a while, so don't worry too much about it if you're new. By using a simple timer circuit which switches between on and off, you can set so your lights turn on for 10 seconds and then off for 10 seconds. This will effectively double the amount of time it takes for your plants to grow, so you can grow them overnight. Of course, if you're going to be off for longer than 6 hours, then this is really helpful, and depending on the amount of time that you're off for, you can do the math to change the timers. The desert actually gets quite cold at night, so if you want, you can actually set up heaters in the desert, but make sure to set them on a timer so that they turn off during the day and turn on during night. This is really easy to do. All you need is a simple circuit with a blocker and a solar panel. When the solar panel gets power, you want to send that power into a blocker and just turn the heaters off. There's quite a few different ways to actually transport water, however none of which are actually as good as building near water. One example is to fly a minicopter to a fresh water source and then have you and your partner have an inventory of water jugs, which can be bought from bandit camp by the way, fill them up and you'll be able to bring back quite a lot of water. Another way is getting a car of course, and in case you didn't know, there is a car module part which allows you to store water. So you would have yourself a pump base over by the river and then drive your car back and forth. And the final way, which has actually been done before but not recommended, is you can have a chain of tool cupboards, and within each tool cupboard you want to place a water combiner. You can actually chain water all the way back to base. If you need to bring this uphill, you're going to need fluid switches and you're going to need to power them. In order to power them, you'd need an E branch inside of each one, and then you'd have to chain a whole bunch of electricity as well. This is an extremely advanced concept, so I wouldn't recommend it at all. At the end of this video, I'm going to be showing you the complete build so you can just follow it step by step in case you're confused at any part throughout the build. But before I get to that, I just want to say thank you very much for 10k subs. Your support's been amazing, and to show my gratitude, I'm going to be giving away a few skins, so make sure to go check out my Discord and react to the bot in order to enter the giveaway. And also, as part of my 10k sub special, I'm going to be doing a Q&A, so if you have any questions related to Rust, me, or anything and everything, then feel free to leave it down in the comments below and I'll be answering a few of them. Thank you very much for watching, but before the video ends, enjoy the build montage.